Hi there, everybody. What culture's Adam Cleary here. And you know how they always say, be careful what you wish for? Well, we wished and we wished and we wished and we wished that Game of Thrones would come back, and now it has. And now there's only 6 more weeks of it ever, and I'm already sad. The Season 8 premiere arrived on Sunday or Monday, depending on how hardcore you are with choosing to watch it. And with it came loads of lovely reunions and also ominous threats of doom, because they're gonna bring everyone back, aren't they? Then rip all their hearts out through their faces. I've missed this. But what happened in that episode? Well, I'm assuming you know already. I'm assuming you've watched it. You really should watch it before you watch this video, because there are spoilers a go-go, but this is Game of Thrones. Everything, every scene, every shot, every facial expression is loaded with meaning and all manner of hidden things, so we're gonna go through them all. Just pull them out and just find out what they all meant. I am Adam, third of his name, and these are all the hidden meanings in Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 1, Winterfell. Number 10, Daenerys knows about Viserion. Alright, really quick one just to get us started here. If you are looking for the cliff notes of this episode, it's basically just lots of different scenes of Bran staring off into the distance and saying something vaguely creepy. But he does tell everybody about the fall of the wall, which is obviously quite important, and he tells Dany about the fate of Viserion, which is incredibly sad. Now, we at least know, as a result of that when we do see him, along with his 2 brothers, and God, that's going to be an absolute mess, it won't be a shock to anybody. They can at least try and prepare. Number 9, QYBURN has a spy? To King's Landing now, and the very first scene we get at the capital sees QYBURN telling Cersei the exact same thing that Bran has just told Jon and Daenerys. But if you bring up the little map of Westeros in your head, you will see that King's Landing is considerably further away from the wall than Winterfell is. So how the hell did he do that? Based on what we know about ravens and travel times and whatnot, there is no chance in hell that QYBURN could have found out this news at exactly the same time as Jon did. And there's no way that Jon and his bannermen could have known before they got to Bran. So somebody from Winterfell passed the message down to King's Landing well before Jon turned up. Thus, there is a strong implication, if indeed a subtle one, that he has some kind of spy there. Now, yes, this could be Varys and his little birds, or it could even be Tyrion trying to play both sides, but either way, we will not know until the series progresses. My money's on Varys. Number 8, Yara lives, but the Ironborn retreat. Now, as we suspected, Euron took Yara with him on his little trip to go get the Golden Company from Essos, and indeed, some people had speculated that he might actually kill her off-screen between seasons. But no, he kept her alive for his own entertainment, apparently, or to keep the family name alive. Who knows? Anyway, just as quickly as she appears, we get another scene when she's been left unguarded, and Theon, in what is, I will hold my hands up here, an incredibly impressive and stealthy display, sneaks onto the boat and saves his sister. It's a far more fitting moment for the new Theon as opposed to the old Reek, and then he takes her away. They get on board a ship and they sail off, and it's at this point that Theon says they should go and fight with the Starks at Winterfell in the big battle between the living and the dead. Presumably, he just wants to get himself killed. Now, what happens here is technically the Dawn treatment. They basically wrap up the Iron Islands and just put it to one side so we don't have to think about it during what comes next. But if you actually pay attention to Yara's words, they are very intriguing. She tells him that it's a good fallback that the Night King can't get to. Now, at this point, they don't realize he has a dragon. He can go wherever the hell he likes, to be completely honest. But it is a little tease, a little hint, a little suggestion that perhaps they will be defeated at Winterfell and need somewhere to fall back to. Now that is, it's not obvious that, I'm not saying it will happen, but it is just a little hint. Why else would we ever need to see Yara again unless they are falling back there? But as I mentioned though, there is a dragon, there is an ice dragon, so we can just, I don't know, ferry them across, just go do his own thing. It's complicated. Number 7, could Cersei actually love Euron? Yeah, a bit of a weird one this, and I'm absolutely not jealous before you point that out, but there seems to be some kind of barbed affection between Cersei and Euron. Now, it could all just be a ploy on her part, but it could also be legit. Alright, so a couple of questions we have to ask here. First of all, could she actually be in love with him because he dares to challenge her authority? That whole, you're the most arrogant man I've ever met, I've killed people for less. Maybe that's just one of her other taboo weird kinks. Or maybe she's using him to cover for a pregnancy which never actually existed in the first place. That's obviously quite complicated. We weren't sure whether or not Jaime had got her pregnant. Some people speculated she was just using that to try and control him, but now that he's gone, she can't use that to control him, so she's kind of got to come up with a pregnancy, and he's gonna put a prince in her, he said, so it's... Now, the most Cersei thing imaginable here is that she makes Euron think that she's in love with him, so he does in fact put a prince in her belly, and Jaime thinks that child is his, and thus he cannot kill Cersei, because why would he kill the mother of his unborn child? Let us not forget Cersei still has this whole prophecy hanging over her head, and having another child sort of resets that a bit, buys her a bit more time as far as that's concerned, so more to find out there. Number 6, Bronn's mission. Ah yes, just when you're beginning to suspect that Bronn might value his friends more than he values his gold. You see, people always bring up his friendship with Tyrion as this heartwarming, endearing character trait, but it was his friendship with Jaime that actually felt real. Like, Tyrion was more a master and servant kind of relationship, whereas with Jaime, he actually just helped him learn to fight. And then when he could escape from him and get some gold on the way, he chose not to. He chose to try and protect him and ended up staring down the nostrils of a dragon. So there was something there, surely. Well, now we're going to find out one way or the other, because his narrative in this season, which we suspected might be very little, is actually going to be very lots. That's good English. Basically, what's going to pull at his plonker hardest? His friendship with the Lannister brothers, or his desire for a big old castle and a nice pot of gold? I mean, what I will say is that if it's the latter, he's almost certainly going to be killed off relatively early on, if not by some STD. Number 5, Arya's weapon. Finally, we get to see Arya and Gendry reunited. After she spectacularly maneuvers around that barbed comment from the Hound, we finally get to see these two good old buddies back together again. They flirt a bit, do they? I'm not really sure what that looks like anymore, and then they're kind of above that whole thing and they get down to business. One thing you absolutely should have picked up on in that scene is Gendry is now an expert in forging weapons out of dragonglass, making him one of the most valuable and important characters in the whole Seven Kingdoms, and thus he is definitely going to die very soon. That's how it works. But crucially, he will not die until he makes Arya the weapon that she gave him on the little scroll. Now, our expert eyes have looked at it, and we think it's some kind of bow that does break off into two separate weapons. But we're not exactly sure yet, but we've been told that it's a game-changing device, and Arya's going to get it, and Gendry's going to make it, and Gendry's going to die, and that's what that scene was about. Just in case you're doubting that prediction in any way, shape, or form, remember Thoros of Myr, the most useful character in the whole show, because he can bring people back from the dead, and obviously dead is not good, and alive is. As soon as he was that useful, he was absolutely stone cold dead. Thus, the peril and the horror. That's Gendry next. Number 4, Jon the Dragon Rider. Now, if neither Jon nor Dany had suspected there was any Targaryen blood in him whatsoever, then they maybe should have picked up on that fact when he was able to literally ride a literal dragon. This is what happens when you're in love. You see, you become an idiot. However, one major bit of significance in this is that the three-headed dragon prophecy slash theory slash whatever you want to call it is now done. All three dragons are accounted for. Dany has hers, the Night King has his, and now Jon has one as well, which means we can finally discount the idea of Tyrion having Targaryen blood, because, well, if he does, there's no reason for that whatsoever. It was only so he could be a part of this prophecy. He's gone, he's out of here. The other interesting thing here, though, the other massive bit of symbolism staring you right in the face, is the fact that Drogon looked jealous when Jon started kissing Dany. Now, that is a dragon. Jealous of the tiny, tiny person kissing another tiny person. Almost as if he wanted a banger himself. And that is weird, but according to sound director Paula Fairfield, she believes, she's the one who does all the noises for the dragon, she's the one who knows their personality better than anybody else. She's under the impression that Drogon is the reincarnated spirit of Khal Drogo. So, two major takeaways from this scene. First of all, the dragon that is the sort of spiritual reincarnation of a dead ex-husband is jealous that she's gonna get all canoodly and whatnot with the tiny, tiny little person, but also Tyrion. Now, we've already known that he feels left out by Jon and Dany's increasing closeness, and, well, he also wanted to ride a dragon himself. He said it was his biggest dream when he was a child, and now he's losing his position, he's losing his influence, he's lost his chance to ride a dragon. Could this push him away further? Yes. Number 3, the sins of the past revisited. Yeah, so seeing Dany's sins against the Tarly family come back to haunt her to some degree was a very, very interesting development. You would think Sam would be happy to see the back of his dad and his brother, who, I mean, let's face it, were absolute bastards, but no, he's not. It's so very, very, very Sam for him to still harbour some kind of love for the pair of them. That is quite dangerous to her, because you've got to remember she is already an outsider in the North. People already don't trust her, and this news that she has somehow mistreated prisoners, that she is a warmonger to some degree, is going to tip the scales further the other way. I will just say I completely forgot that they did that in the last season. I completely forgot that she killed those two, and I was like, oh, whoa. Then right at the very end of the episode, a sin from episode 1, the very start of the show, some 8 years ago, finally comes back to haunt Jaime. He arrives in Winterfell, takes off his cloak, and who is there to greet him? The crippled boy he pushed out of a window when he caught him doing an actual sex with his actual sister. Now, I popped huge at the fact that I realised the old friend Bran was waiting for was him. Now, you could sort of argue that this is a bit illogical, because Bran is no longer Bran, is he? He's the three-eyed raven, so it's a bit weird that he'd hold a grudge from all that time ago, but still, getting pushed out of a window might have a lasting effect on you, so we'll let that go. Either way, both Jaime and Dany are going to have to answer for their crimes. It's just a question of who gets the harsher punishment. Number 2, Jon knows his true past. After all these mentions of marriage and proposals and this true love and keep your queen warm, ooh, we finally get the revelation of Jon's true parentage. Sam takes him down to the crypts, and then, compelled by a mix of frustration and anger at the death of his own family and the knowledge of Jon's and the fact that Bran just sort of told him to do it, ooh, he tells Jon the truth that we've been waiting for all these seasons. Now, just as a slight aside here, what I'd like to see in episode 2 is Jon not really believe this. I mean, at the minute, all it is just Sam telling him because he read it in a book, and Bran telling Sam to tell him because he just knew it was true in his weird old head. I'd like to see some kind of evidence for that, but regardless, it is going to be the crux of episode 2. Jon struggling to deal with this information. Does he tell Dany? Will she see him as a threat? Their entire dynamic has changed as a result of this. This is just yet another problem for Jon, right as he didn't need it. He's got a big job on his hands convincing everybody to rally around him yet again, seeing as some people are annoyed that he's apparently bent the knee to Dany and won't fight for her, whereas some loyalists just won't show up at all, and others are looking to Sansa for leadership, and it's all over the place. He has no idea what he's doing, and now he has to deal with the fact that he's actually the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Wouldn't envy him right now, I'll be honest. What he really hopes doesn't happen is that Varys somehow finds out, because if he does, he will throw all his weight behind Jon and start pulling all the little strings in the background. He has already expressed reservations about Daenerys as the eventual leader, and if Jon's there, a far more worthy candidate, a far better man, he'll make sure that the entire North rally behind him and insist that he usurps her as the challenger to the throne. It's gonna get real messy, this. Really, really messy, and I can't wait. Number 1, the symbol. So yes, our last and our most significant piece of symbolism nearly at the end of the episode. The Brotherhood without banners, the Night's Watch and the Free Folk happen upon an abandoned Umber stronghold, and God, that's horrible. One major thing that wasn't really mentioned on the show here is that House Umber is not in a direct path between the Wall and Winterfell, which means the dead have gone out of their way to kill the living there, implying they want to get as many of them as humanly possible. And by the looks of it, the Night King himself went there personally. That's terrifying. But more importantly than any of that, they have left a message. We've seen this symbol in the show before. We saw it in the very first episode. It is associated with the White Walkers and tends to be wherever they have done a badness. Now, not only did this just happen, they deliberately nailed bodies of people to the wall, with the Lord of House Umber in the center of it. Not even dead, like reanimate the dead, whatever you call undead, that's it. Now we know this symbol means something. It dates right back to the earliest elements of the lore, and it's still appearing in the, air quotes, present day now. All we know is that whoever knows what this means hasn't seen it yet, and at some point in the series, we're going to get somebody finally happening across it, and them suddenly understanding some horrible, horrible significance. There is a reason they're leaving this everywhere. It's because they want somebody, we don't know who, to see it. Few things we can rule out. It's got nothing to do with the Lord of Light or the Free Folk or anything to do with the Night's Watch, because one of those three would have picked up on it. So it's either I don't know, the history of the White Walkers explained, or the key to their downfall, or something of major, major significance. One slightly out there read of it we have here at whatculture.com is that, and especially when you set it on fire, I should add, it looks like the Targaryen banner symbol. And the scene immediately before that, Tyrion mentions banner symbols, so it does kind of get that in your mind. I don't know, it could just be a hint at their origins, or there's something to do with the Targaryens or dragons or something like that, but if there is a connection, it would explain why nobody has picked up on it yet, as the Targaryens have not been in much contact with the Whites, save for Dany that one time. But hey, there you go, one episode of television, some 54 minutes, and all of that symbolism packed in to its running. I'm sure there's probably more as well, so if you spotted it, let us know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In the meantime, though, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Next week, actually. Bye.